I'm Christine Renee, and today we're going to be making kombucha and June. So I've been gifted some scobies of both kombucha and June. So here's what the kombucha one looks like. And so this is my first attempt to make kombucha in June. So hopefully we do pretty good and do all right. So what you need is, first you need a starter, you need a SCOBY. So find a friend who's got one that they can gift. They get really thick and they can just peel one off, and they're happy usually to give them away. And then you need at least 1 cup of kombucha starter. So I was gifted 2 gallons of kombucha on my birthday from a friend. I wasn't doing so well. I had some gut issues, and a nice 10-ounce glass of kombucha cured me. So I'm a big fan of kombucha. Some of it doesn't taste super great, but I think the health benefits and the probiotics in them are amazing. So we're going to be making kombucha, which is black tea. So I use Newman's Own organic black. And then we're going to be making June, which is a little bit more rare, and you're not going to find it as much, but this is what a June looks like, and it's green tea and honey. So it's a little bit more expensive, but it is the champagne of kombuchas. So it's much smoother, and it's really nice. So I'm hoping that I can get this SCOBY that's been sitting in my fridge for a while to get started. I'm finally taking the plunge and doing this project. So with June, you need green tea and honey. So I've got all my ingredients out. We're going to go ahead and get started. I've got 2 pots of water. We're only going to make a half a gallon each, so I'm not making a lot amount, but I don't think I can drink more than that. So we're going to start and put the black tea in this one. Now the key is to not have your water super hot. So you don't want it to be boiling, you want it to be warm. So I already had these a little too warm and they've been cooling off for a while. So then, since we're just making a half a gallon, I'm going to add a half a cup of just sugar. This is an organic raw sugar that I particularly enjoy, and you just want to have it warm enough to dissolve that sugar. And then we're also going to use, I'm using 4 tea bags each. For the June, I need 4 green tea bags. That's going to go in this pot with a half a cup of honey. So we'll pour the honey in there. And once again, you want to have this not so hot. It's not supposed to get above 107 degrees, and just enough to dissolve it and brew it for a little while. Now I hear that with June, you only need a few minutes to brew that tea and dissolve that sugar, whereas the kombucha black tea needs a little bit longer. So we're going to try to make this one first. So what we need to do is have your hands washed, and take your scobies out and put it in a dish. So I'm just going to flop it right in. You don't want to clean your jar. You don't need to. It's got all that probiotic happiness already in there. So that one's good to go. This is what our June SCOBY looks like. Yeah, don't want to lose it. It smells a little funky, but it's good. Now with my kombucha, I have some I have to drain off, and I have to take this really large kombucha SCOBY out. So I've got some clean jars. We're gonna, while our tea is brewing, give that a little bit of a stir, see how that's coming along. Give this one a little stir. And I've got a strainer, and we're just gonna fill up these jars while we wait for that tea to brew. So I just use a stainless steel strainer with a tiny bit of a strainer in it, and I don't do anything fancy. All the texture in there is really good for you. So I want to keep it in. Now some people like to filter it out, and that's fine. So I think I've got enough for one more jar here. And eventually we're going to find that big SCOBY at the bottom. So I'm going to pour my SCOBY in here. And this one is quite larger. The person who I got the SCOBY from had a big pot, like a big glass jar, which he got from Target, and it holds like over a gallon of liquid. So, and that's another point. When you use your water in your pots, I've got about 4 or 5 cups here each, and you want to use filtered water, RO water, spring filtered water, nothing with chlorine in it. So, and I just had used my filtered water from my sink and hope that my sink does a good job getting the chlorine out with my filter. So, looks like this is almost done. It looks like one of my tea bags popped open, but I'm just kind of checking and making sure all of that honey has dissolved. And we're going to go ahead and do that one first. And since the tea bag popped, which isn't fun, I'm just going to get a little strainer from my cupboard here. Okay, so we're going to put that here. The reason why you don't want it hot is because it will kind of burn the SCOBY. And so we want to just be really careful that this isn't too hot. So we can even add some cold water if we need to. So I'm going to go ahead and hopefully pour this in. Now I don't want to use the same filter on. I want to keep them separate. I want to have my June separate from my kombucha. So I just wanted another little something to hold that on there well. We'll go ahead and pour our June. This is just our green tea. That looks pretty good. Looks like I still have a little bit of tea leaves floating in there, and I'm just not going to worry about it. June usually takes care of itself, and but it's a little warm, and that makes me a little nervous. So I'm going to go ahead and let that cool while I start on our kombucha. So let's get our strainer, and we'll do the same thing here. I want to just make sure all of that sugar has dissolved. And it's almost ready. I think I'm just going to pop it on this burner and turn it on a little bit longer to just get that last bit of sugar dissolved. So kombucha, the black tea, can go brew for about 10 minutes, whereas the June needs 2 or 3 minutes. So I'm glad I did it in this order, and I just want to make sure it's warm enough to dissolve that sugar. All right. And that looks really good. I have actually have a couple SCOBYs. So I've got this one has just been sitting on my counter for a while, and it kind of developed a SCOBY on its own. See that floating in there? So that's very common. If you leave your kombucha on the counter for a while, it's just going to form a mother. So we're going to pour this one off too, and add it to our mixture here. If I can get it all out. This is fun. It's got, it's kind of gelatin-like. It kind of is gross, but you can even eat the SCOBYs, and they're really good for you. I ate one this morning, just a little floater in my kombucha, and it was not the most pleasant texture, but it had a little, it felt like a jellyfish with a little bit of tingle to it. So, all right, I think our sugar has dissolved. So we'll go ahead and pour that in here. So this is just black tea, and that's perfect. That's the perfect amount. All right, so just black tea and sugar, half cup sugar. So now, and this feels about the right temperature, we need at least a half a cup, 1 cup of our kombucha to be a starter. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. I've got quite a bit, so I'm going to go ahead and add quite a bit, and that just helps it go. And so now we need to put this SCOBY back into our container. And you can also add a little cold water. You only need so much tea, like, you know, you need at least half full of tea, and then just at least 1 cup of your kombucha starter from the last batch, and then you can top it off with cold filtered water. So we're going to go ahead and put these SCOBYs back in to help this process. Oh, it feels funky. And this is that big one. Put that in. Here's my nice little round one that formed in the jar. And I got a couple more little guys that were forming. So we're just going to put that back in there too. And hopefully get some of this kombucha. Put this in there. So this needs to sit for probably, it can sit for a couple days if you don't like it very vinegary, but it can last up to like 2 months on your counter without any problems. So this one's done, and we're just going to top it. It can sit, you need to let it sit for at least 3 or 4 days. And so I'm just going to put it on the back wall of this counter and let that go. And we're going to finish up our June. So I already have, this is as much June as I was given. You usually need at least a half a cup to a cup of the starter. So we're going to see how this one turns out, and hopefully it will work. So I just popped right in there. I had a little bit of starter, and this looks good too. I'm just going to top it off with a little bit of filtered water. And I'm told that you're not supposed to keep your June sitting next to your kombucha. Now, I just have to note, look at that color difference there. So this is the black kombucha, and this is your green tea June. So this one's honey, this one's sugar. And so we'll see after a couple days how they do. So June likes to be placed high up and without a lot of attention around, not on top of an appliance like a fridge. It needs to be away from your EMFs. And then it needs about 2 or 3 days, and then you pour it off into jars, and you put those, let those sit out for another 2 to 3 days, and they get nice and fizzy. And then you can put that in the fridge after that. But then once you pour it off, I'll be making this again in 2 to 3 days. So that's my little kombucha lesson, and I'll let you know how it turns out and what they taste like. Thanks so much for joining me.